Hi, my name is Magdalene, and today I'm going to be walking you through how to make a flyer from a template in Adobe Express. Adobe Express is Adobe's free web based editing software. If you've ever used Canva, it's very similar to Canva. You can use templates to create flyers, social media posts, videos, web pages, all sorts of things. So it's basically just a free design software that you don't have to install in your computer. You can just go to adobeexpress.com, create an account, and it's ready to go. So today I'm going to be walking you through how you can make a flyer by using a template, and I'll show you how to customize it from colors to adding in your own text and your own photos. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so once you've created your account and signed in, you'll see this page here. At the top, you'll see a search bar, which you can use this to find templates or photos or whatever it is you are looking to do. Underneath that, you'll see there are more options. Basically, all of this is the same information repeated, so there's just different ways to find the same thing. So whether you want to search it here at the top, or if you want to search by using these icons here, there are also templates that you can search through on the top bar here. So highly recommend just kind of scrolling through here, and you'll be able to find whatever it is that you're looking for. Most of these are templates that you can browse through so that you don't have to start from scratch, which is what we're going to be using today. So what we are going to do is at the top search bar here, if you go to templates, and we're actually going to use equestrian. This theme, for whatever reason, has really good templates to choose from. So I've chosen one here that we're going to customize. And I'm going to show you how you can use whatever template. It doesn't have to be related to exactly to the event that you're trying to promote. You can actually just use any template that you like and customize it for your needs. So if you scroll down, you'll see this horse rides in red here with the horse, and this is the template that we're going to customize. So just click on that, and then you can click on Customize Template. And because this is a poster, it's going to make this 11 by 17. That's the size. I highly recommend, before you get started, you actually really want to know what size you're going to need for your end product. So 11 by 17 is referring to tabloid paper size. If you plan on printing this, 11 by 17 is going to be larger than a regular sheet of paper. If what you're after is actually just a regular sheet of paper, you're going to want to make sure that you resize this first to 8.5 by 11. If you're planning on using this for social media, there are a couple of different options. So at the top here, you'll see there's a button to resize. So let's just click on that, and you'll see that right now this is 11 by 17 inches. Okay, so you can change this quickly to a flyer 8.5 by 11 size. That's regular sheet of paper. An Instagram square post, which is 1080 by 1080. There is another Instagram size which I actually recommend because it fills the phone space a lot better, and also because it's very similar to an 8.5 by 11 sheet size. So you could make the Instagram portrait post, which is 1080 by 1350. And this is going to get you basically the same proportions as an 8.5 by 11 sheet. So if what you're after is creating an Instagram post or a social media post, as well as printing it on a regular sheet of paper, that is the size I would go with. for now, I'm going to leave this as 11 by 17, but I felt like I should mention that from the beginning because it is really important to start with the size that you want to end up with. Otherwise, you're going to have to resize it later, and when you've already added in all your elements, that can be a little bit more challenging. Okay, so you'll see on the left hand side here, you have all of these various icons, and this is where most of what we are going to be using will be. If you click on these, you'll see that these panels open up. So we have our media here. This is going to be your photos, video, and audio. You'll have templates. So if you've already chosen your template like we did here, you can still change the template just by clicking on templates and finding a new template, and then it'll just automatically replace this template with the one that you've chosen. Text underneath that. So you can add a text box by clicking on the top button here, or you can also find some ready-made text that's already got some style to it. So it'll have like these fonts that are paired together that look nice. Okay. Underneath that we have elements, and here you'll find various design assets such as frames, illustrations, overlays, and textures, and we will definitely get into this more once we get started. You can also find backgrounds, and these will, if you click on them, they'll automatically populate onto your artboard as a background. I'm going to go ahead and undo that by clicking Control Z. Next to backgrounds, you'll find shapes, and you'll use these pretty often. There's some good shapes to choose from, some lines, some arrows, basic shapes. Next to that, you'll find icons. These are really useful. You can actually use these to create logos as well. And beyond that, I don't personally really use too much else on the left-hand panel here, but there are some various add-ons and other tools that you can play around with there. And anytime that you have one of these panels open, you can always just close them by clicking on the X at the top here, and then if you click on the icon, it'll open it back up. When you've clicked on these different tabs, you will have to just kind of go back through to get through the different tabs, because it will just stay like, let's say we chose shapes and then closed it. When we open it again, it'll still be on shapes. So just remember that there are different tabs here, and almost anything related to backgrounds, textures, all that stuff is going to be here in Elements. So if you're ever a little bit lost and you can't find what you're looking for, just use this arrow here to scroll through those different options. And at the top, you'll see you have some other options here. We've already gone through resize, so this is where you can change the size of your page. Theme, these are different color options. So this is really neat because you can actually just go through, and if you want to change this color palette, you can just select one of these themes and it's going to automatically change the colors on your page here. So you can play around with just some different colors by clicking on this, and you can see them automatically applied to your page. I will note that if you start playing around with choosing these different color themes, there isn't a way to automatically reset it to the original theme. So just know that if you're not happy with whatever color theme that you choose, you will have to start over in order to reset the theme to the original template that you chose. There are some workarounds, but I think that it might be a little bit complicated to explain it for the beginning. So I would just say, as a beginner, just be aware that if you start changing the color theme, that is kind of permanent. You can't really undo it once you get started on your flyer. From the beginning, if you decide that you want to undo it, there is a way to undo to a certain point. The command for that is similar to if you've ever worked in a Word doc. So Control Z on your keyboard will undo. So you can undo that. So this is our original. So you can undo that from the beginning if you want to play around with it. But again, if I choose a theme, let's say I select this one here, and then I start editing this, and I've already gotten really far and I've changed all the information and added in my own photo, I would lose all of that work if I wanted to go back to the original color theme. So I hope that makes sense, but basically I think the takeaway is if you're changing the color theme, just know that if that color theme is not saved here, you can't really easily go back to it. Okay, and then next to the theme, we have the background color. And you can choose a custom color. There are various palettes that you can choose from here. They give you additional colors. There's even the option to choose a custom color here, which will just give you a color slider, and you can just kind of choose whichever color you want. Hex codes are also really handy if you have a very specific color that you're using, let's say for company or your university. Oftentimes they will offer this number here, this hex code, and you can actually just type that right in, and it'll add that color. You'll also see that when you click on background color, you have the page theme at the top. So I chose one of these themes from the theme picker, and now I have all of the colors from that palette available here under page theme. That's really handy because if you want to just stick with the page theme, which I recommend, because once you start adding a lot of colors, your flyer's not going to look very clean and professional. So I would say just stick with a color palette, find a color palette you like, and use the colors from that color palette, and don't add any extra colors beyond that. Okay, and we'll skip over to this side over here to the right hand side. Here you have your zoom options. You can either manually select how zoomed in you want to be, or you can also use the shortcuts on your keyboard, which are Control plus the equal sign. So if you hold down Control and then click on the equal sign on your keyboard, that'll zoom in. To zoom out, you hold down Control and use the minus or the dash sign, which is next to it, and that will allow you to zoom out. Next to that, you'll see your pages. So you can add more pages to this file, and we will do that later. For now, let's just go back. And next to that, you'll find your layers. And all of these boxes here are your layers on your page. You can reorder these if you want. So if you want to move something underneath something else, you can just click and drag that underneath. If you want to select something on your artboard, you can actually do it from your layers panel as well. So as you can see, I selected this horse here just by clicking on the box on the right hand side here. Okay, and I'll get into that and explain that a little bit further in just a moment once we get started. Okay, so then the last thing is you can add more pages. So if you click on this button here, you can add a new page. You can select add a page of the same size, a custom size, and you can also duplicate this page here, which is super handy, and I'll definitely show you a quick little trick on how to resize images quickly just by using duplicate. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I've already chosen my theme. I'm happy with this color palette, so I can go ahead and close that out. And one thing I want to mention is when you open a template, you'll find that a lot of things are grouped together. So this here, if you click on it, I won't be able to just click on this photo. It's been grouped together, so all of these elements are one group, and you can see that in your layers these boxes have numbers on them, and that is because there are 4 elements in this group here. So there are a couple things you can do. You can either, once you've clicked on it, you can click ungroup on the left hand side of the panel here. If you don't want to ungroup them, but you want to edit the individual elements in the group, you can click on that box and you'll see that now I have access to all 4 of the elements in that group. Okay, and then by clicking on the back arrow, you can go back to see all of your layers. So a couple things we're going to do. First of all, this layer was at the top here, and this is a texture layer, and I really love texture layers because they add a unifying theme to your entire layer, to your entire flyer. But the problem with these texture layers is when they're on top and they're covering your entire flyer, you're not going to be able to click on anything on here because it's just going to be selecting that texture layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on that texture and we're going to move it all the way down. Okay, so now it's not on top, and if I click on this again, now I can click on the various elements on this page. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to just actually go through and ungroup all of these. So if you click on the top group here, we're just going to click ungroup. Okay, and then go through again on this next section here, click ungroup, and then on this bottom section here, and ungroup. Okay, so now we have all of our elements accessible, and we'll easily be able to edit everything. Okay, so for starters, we are going to go ahead and change out this horse image. Okay, so you will see on the layers panel that there are actually 2 horse images. We're going to click on the bottom one and delete that image there. And as you can see, we're just left with 1 horse image here, and we're going to go ahead and replace this image by clicking on the photo and then going over to the left hand side panel, and you'll see that right next to the image icon, the image thumbnail, there are these 2 boxes with arrows, and if you hover over it, it says replace. So we want to click on that, and you'll see it opens up this panel here where you can, it opens up this panel here where you can either upload a photo from your device, you can search for photos, or you can just scroll through and there are different categories that you can choose from. Okay, so I'm going to choose a photo from the wellness category, and there are a ton of different fun photos that you can choose from here. Go ahead and select whichever photo you'd like. I'm going to use the photo of this person dancing here, so just going to select that. And And now that I have my photo, what I want to do is I want to remove this background. I want just the image of the person. So with that photo selected, I can click on the left-hand side panel here. There's the option to remove background. And as you can see, that works really well. This program is very impressive at removing backgrounds, so highly recommend it. It adds a lot of fun, interesting elements to your photos when you're able to remove the background. Okay, so this image is a little bit cropped, so I've selected the image, and by using these little bars, these tabs on the side of the photo, you can actually extend out the photo so that image was cropped. You can uncrop and crop an image by using those sliders. And you can also scale the image, so make it bigger or smaller by using these circles on the edges of this box. So when you hover over it, you'll see there are these arrows, and you can click on that and make the image bigger and smaller just by dragging your mouse up and down. Okay, so we are going to turn this horse rides flyer into a book fair flyer. So let's go over to media, and we're going to click the back button, and this time we're going to search photos, and I'm just going to type in book. Okay, and now I'm going to select some books that are kind of open. So I'll just select a couple of different books, this one here, that one, and also it helps if they have plain backgrounds and is also just one book. Okay, so now that I have 3 different books here, I'm going to click on the top one, and I'm going to click remove background again. And I'm just going to go through and do that for each book photo. Okay, so now I have these 3 book photos, and I'm just going to scale them, make them a little bit smaller. Okay, and rearrange them. And remember, you can always click Control-Z if you want to undo an action. Okay, so underneath the photo, you'll see that there's this little turn arrow, and that allows you to rotate the image around. So just play around with that, rotate the image, and we're going to kind of create a scene where it looks like books are maybe falling all around this person. Okay, and as you can see, this book right here didn't completely get the background removed, so I'm going to show you how you can manually remove parts of the background if this happens. Okay, so we're going to want to zoom in using Control+ on my keyboard and zooming in, and I'm actually just going to grab that book and put it in the middle here for now so we can see it. Okay, and with the image selected, we're going to go to Erase, and you'll see an option here for quick selection, and you can change the size of the brush. I've made it pretty small, so I'm just using a really small brush, and I'm going to just kind of select that white area that didn't get erased, and there, as well as in between these pages, but I'll actually want to use an even smaller brush for that. Okay, and just kind of click and drag over that, and now you can see all of that white space is gone, and I can just click done and zoom back out. Okay, and that looks a lot better. All right, and I'll go ahead and move that back over to the side. Again, make these a little bit smaller. Okay, so we've made an image here now where it looks like this person is dancing and there are books falling all around her. I want to go ahead and move this rectangular bar here so I can scroll down and use the layers panel to select it. You'll find that once you start layering things over each other, it can be really hard to select something that is kind of in the back. So this photo is on top of that rectangular bar here, and you can see when I try and select that rectangle, I can only select the photo. So this is where having layers comes in handy. I'm going to just select the rectangle from the panel here, and you can see there's a little thumbnail of each item on this page. So this rectangle here is right there, and then the top part of that rectangle is right above it, and if I click on it, you'll see that it becomes highlighted on the page. So we're going to click on the top part of that rectangle, and I'm just going to click backspace or delete on my keyboard, and that gets rid of that little top part of the rectangle, and then I'm going to click on the larger piece and rotate that. So underneath here, you'll see the option for rotate, and if you hold down shift, you can actually turn this in increments. So I'm turning that 90 degrees, clicking on that, and I'm going to use this to kind of ground this person here. Okay. All right, so the next thing we're going to work on is we're going to change the text on this flyer. Okay, so I'll go ahead and click on horse rides and zoom in a little tighter here, and I'm just using my mouse wheel to scroll up on this flyer. Okay, so now we can go ahead and change this text, and you can just double click in this space and you'll see that you can highlight the text. And we're going to change this to book fair. So I've typed in book, click enter, and then I'm typing in fair. Okay, and when I'm typing in this text, as you can see, it's resizing it automatically. That is because this text layout dynamic has been applied to this text. And I actually really like this effect because it makes the text look a lot neater. You'll see if I turn that off, now this text it doesn't look as clean, as neat. It's the book and the fair are different, taking up different amounts of space. Whereas if you click dynamic, it automatically resizes the text so that they are both aligned, and it just looks a lot cleaner. Okay, you can also change the font if you want. There are some recommended options at the top here. If you click view all, it'll show you a preview of what these different fonts would look like. So you can choose one from here, or you can also, if I go back, you can just choose from this drop down menu here and select a different font. As a rule of thumb, people often suggest not using more than 2 fonts. I really agree with that. You can definitely create some fun, interesting effects by using a lot of different fonts, but I will say that unless you really are knowledgeable in graphic design, it can be very difficult to pull that off. For most people, I would recommend just sticking with the 2 font rule. And one other thing I'll say is when using stylized fonts, you really only want to use the stylized font on text that's going to be very large. So if I wanted to apply a highly stylized font to this text here, that's something that you could get away with because the text is so large. Let me pick one that's very stylized. Okay, so for example, this text. Even here, I'd say it's not really working that well. It's a little bit hard to read. So I would say don't sacrifice legibility for style. You still want this to be something that people are going to be able to read. So again, just at your discretion, make sure that first and foremost, people can read the text. Okay, so I actually really like this font here. I'm going to go ahead and use that one. And as you can see, I've made the text bigger, so it's even easier to read. And now there's this cool layering effect with the book and the text. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that just like that. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and click on this text box here. And if you move it around, you'll see that these pink lines appear, and that's telling you where the text is aligning to. So these guides are really handy. You'll see if I put it here, it's telling me that the text is evenly aligned to this line, the same width as the text that's above it. So again, super duper handy as far as making your flyers look clean, professional, and organized. Okay, so what I was saying is that the distance between this text and this line is the same as the distance between this text and this line. So these are things that maybe you wouldn't like specifically notice that those are different, but if all of these elements are kind of aligned in a weird way, it will look unprofessional and unorganized, even if people can't really put their finger on why it looks unprofessional and unorganized. They'll just have this sense that like something's off. So I highly recommend using those tools to help you place your text. There is also the align tool. So for example, let me zoom in here and select all of these texts here by holding down Shift and clicking on each one. You can use the align tool to also make sure that everything is lined up well. So as you can see, all of these are aligned to the top because that is grayed out. So all of those are aligned, and then it's horizontally distributed. The space is distributed evenly in between each one. So let me just quickly show you. Let's say these are just off a little bit like that, and zoom out here. So now you can see it doesn't really look clean and organized anymore. All of these are just sort of scattered in a weird way. It doesn't feel like there's any order to them. So that's why it's important to make sure that these things are organized. Okay, so let me just show you quickly how you can put that back together. Click on each one holding down Shift, then click Align, and I'm just going to click Align Top and then horizontally distribute. Okay, and now I can grab all of these and align them there. Zoom back out. Again, much cleaner, much neater. Okay, so you could go ahead and go through and add all of your information, add all of your text. Any text boxes that you don't need, you could just click on them and click backspace on your keyboard and get rid of them, and then just remember to space things out and redistribute the space if you need to. So click on all of these, line at the top, distribute horizontally, and there you go. Okay, so I just want to show you a few more effects that you can add. I'm going to click on that image again, and if you scroll down on this panel on the left hand side here, you'll see that you have a couple of different options for editing this photo. So One is cropping. This is where you would crop the image. Opacity, this just makes it see-through. We're not going to use that. Blending mode, this one's interesting. I use this more for textures, so I'm going to skip that for now and I'll show you it a little bit later. Down here, you can flip the image horizontally and vertically. And down here, we have some effects. So I really like to use this duotone effect. It helps to really unify images. So if you click on custom, okay, you'll see that your colors come up, your different color palettes. And I'm going to just go ahead and I'm actually not going to use a custom one. I'm just going to choose one from here. Okay, so we'll use this effect here, this duotone effect, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to apply the same effect to these books. Okay, so go to effect, duotone, scroll down, and I chose that one there. Okay, so as you can see, it just makes it so that this image looks a lot more unified, rather than having it all look a little bit different and be different colors. The other editing options that you have for your photos, you can adjust your image, contrast, brightness, all of that here. That's super handy for just some kind of basic photo editing. And the last thing I want to do is I want to change the color of this text. So I'm going to click on the text. There are a ton of different effects that you can add to your text. You can add a shadow here if you want to make your text pop off the page a little bit more. You can also add a shape around your text. All kinds of different shape options here to choose from, and you can even change the color of the shape behind it. So if you wanted to stick with your page theme, you could add one of these colors here to the shape. I'm going to go ahead and undo that by clicking Control Z. Okay, so I actually just want to change the color, so I'm going to click on Fill, and I'm going to select a different color from the page theme. Okay, so I want this text to stand out a little bit more, so I'm going to choose that pink color. Okay, and actually, sorry, one more thing. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to move that texture layer that we had previously moved to the bottom. We're going to click on that and move it all the way back up to the very top of our layers here. And again, this is just adding some texture to the entire image so that it looks unified, and just make sure that it is actually covering your entire image. So that was a little bit higher, that was a little bit cut off, so I just want to expand it so that it's covering the whole image here. And if I zoom in, you can see that it's adding this texture to the entire image. One thing you can do with texture layers is you can actually decrease the opacity, and that's really nice because then if you want to lessen the effect, you can just decrease the opacity or increase the opacity if you want it to show more. You can also use the blending modes. This is where the blending modes really come in handy. So let me show you what this layer looks like if I select normal. You can see it's really dark. It doesn't look very good. So by selecting screen, we're getting rid of all of the darkness and only showing the light parts of the image. And then by decreasing the opacity, we can make the effect stronger, or we can decrease the strength of the texture. Okay, so if you want to add a different texture, you can go to Elements, and we're going to go over to Design Assets and click on Textures here. And this is where you'll find a ton of different textures that you can add to your image. I really love adding texture to my pages. I think that they give them a fun, unifying look. They just make them look a little bit more interesting. So if I go ahead and delete that texture there, you'll see this flyer looks a lot more flat. But when we add a texture layer, it just gives it a little bit more depth. So I'm actually going to show you a different way to use a texture layer, and I'm going to actually just put this one in the background. So let me select one here. I'm going to use that one there. Okay, go ahead and make it larger so that it's filling the entire space. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and move this layer down. Actually, let me make that a tiny bit smaller. Okay, and I'm just going to drag that layer all the way underneath so it's all the way in the background. And you can apply the duotone effect to this as well. So I'm going to click on Customize, and you can use the colors from your color theme. So as you can see, I just applied this blue color to the shadows here, and I can make that darker blue, which I'm going to use because I think that looks a little bit better. And then zoom in here and go back, and I can decrease the opacity just to make that a little bit lighter. The one thing with textures is you want to make sure that it doesn't make your text hard to read. So if I zoom in here, this text is still legible, but maybe if I decrease the opacity a little bit more, you can read the text a little bit better. So, okay, so that is how you customize a template in Adobe Express. There are a ton of different fun elements that you can play around with. There's so many ways that you can customize any template to an event that you're having. So much more that you can do with this program. I highly recommend playing around with the generative AI features. You can create images using them. You can create effects on your text by using the generative AI. So a lot to play around with there. Before we finish off, I wanted to show you how you can resize this image. So remember in the beginning I said you want to know what size you want to end up with, right? But let's say that you do want an 11 by 17 poster, but you also want a 10 by 10 square Instagram post. So what you can do is you can create your 11 by 17 flyer, and then by going up to the top and clicking add and click duplicate, now we have two of the exact same flyer. And now you can go up to resize and click on 1080 by 1080. This is a square Instagram post, and as you can see, all of your elements are still there. This is now a square, and all you have to do is just click on these things, move them around, and you can just very quickly and easily create two posts that way without having to start from scratch. You will have to move things around quite a bit to make sure that it still looks good, but it is at least a little bit easier to resize it this way. If you're remaking something for Instagram, you'll want to make sure that things are easy to read. Obviously, this is going to be viewed on a phone, so you'll want text to be larger so that it is easier to read. Okay, and one last thing before we go. To save your files, you'll want to go up to the top and click download. And from here, you can, if you have multiple pages, you'll want to select all pages. Or if you want to only download one of your pages, you can click on selected page, and whichever page it is that you're looking at, that's the one it will download. For file format, you can choose from 3 different options. You'll have PNG, JPEG, or PDF. Okay, and that's how you customize a template in Adobe Express. I hope you have enjoyed this workshop.